Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 27. The biggest privilege that I have had in a very long time, since I am such a fan of personal brand. Magazine says, Time magazine calls him a leader in his field. Forbes says he's a charisma booster, and entrepreneur dubbed him the personal branding guru. I'm not going to do too much of an introduction today, since I know that you, my fearless friends, are pretty much aware with William's amazing work in personal branding. So I'm going to let him do the whole talk. Welcome, William, and it is such a pleasure having you with us today.
It's truly my pleasure, Roxana. Thanks.
William, can you please start by sharing with us how has this wonderful journey with personal branding has begun for you?
Well, it actually began in 1997. And so technically, I know Inc. calls me the father of personal branding, but I am not. The father of personal branding is Tom Peters. And he wrote an article in the July 1997 issue of Fast Company. It was a cover story. It was called The Brand Called You. And in it, for the first time, the concept of personal branding was introduced to the world. This idea that we all need to dig inside ourselves and understand what makes us unique and valuable, and use that as a way to advance our careers and increase our happiness at work. And I read the article, I was in the middle of writing a report. I was kind of getting bored. And I went out and on my assistant's desk was a copy of the magazine. And I picked it up and I read the article and I put the magazine down and said, I'm going to start a personal branding company. So that was the beginning of the journey. I have my entire career after I started my personal branding company is really thanks to Tom Peters and his brilliance and his foresight around this topic.
Wow, they talk about taking decisions on the spot. You were very impressed.
Yeah, although, you know what, I took the decision, but I didn't. This is the interesting thing about it. Literally, I thought, by the way, I loved my job. I worked in the coolest company with the coolest people. And, Sunday night, I'd be excited because I got to go to work again the next day. And so I was kind of deciding, when am I going to do this? Because I'm actually happy in my job. And the next week, my manager said to me, hey, do you want to go run branding for Europe? And I thought, oh my gosh, move to Europe, start a personal branding company. What do I do? So I moved to Europe. And so I lived in London for a couple of years. And then I lived in Paris for several years. And then finally, the pull to personal branding was so strong that while I was in Paris is when I actually quit my job. And I got myself on a layoff list and I saved one of my people. And then I left and I started my company in Paris, believe it or not, which was maybe not the best decision ever, but nonetheless, that's kind of how it happened.
Wow, I'm really impressed by this amount of action that you took. You liked it, you did it, you didn't wait for anything else to happen. And can you maybe please share with us, since many of our audience is around their 30s and maybe they're thinking into moving into entrepreneurship, was this journey in a way challenging for you, going from the safe job to having your own business?
Exceptionally challenging, frankly. Yeah, it was, you know what? I think that if I knew honestly how hard it was going to be, I don't know if I would have had the courage to jump off. If I'm being really honest about it, because I wasn't just leaving a business to do what I was doing in the corporate world. I was leaving a business to start an industry that nobody knew existed. Nobody knew what personal branding was. Nobody wanted any of it. Nope, certainly there wasn't a person who wanted to buy any personal branding. So I was really taking a huge leap of trying to introduce this concept to the world that I was really passionate about, but nobody really thought about it. And so it was a really challenging start. And the other thing I think that I did, in retrospect, everything is easy, right? But if I had spent 6 months before I left kind of making my plan, I would have been in a different place when I started. But I literally worked at my company one day, at the company I was working for one day. The next day I was like sitting at my desk oh, now I have a personal branding company. What do I do? So I spent a lot of time building my methodology, and I knew what I wanted to do with personal branding. I had a lot of ideas about how it could be valuable, but I needed to do research, and I needed to create my structure and my framework and my process and all of that kind of work. So I probably spent that first year mostly just defining my offering and starting to try to get people excited about it.
Wow. And I'm so glad that you took this leap of faith, since now you are the branding personal guru, you are the personal branding expert that everyone goes to. And your work has been so impressive, and in my own business as well. And I just told you how mind-blowing it was for me to find out that, okay, business is about who I am. It's a part of my personality, my needs, my values. And by the way, what would you say that your biggest motto or a quote would be? What is the one that you are following in life?
My biggest one, without question: what makes you unique makes you successful. Mm-hmm. Right. I am on a mission to completely eliminate conformity. Conformity is the enemy of innovation, and conformity, it just zaps our energy and our uniqueness and our authenticity. And that used to be the world of work, right? And even up to the 1950s and 60s and 70s, people would head to the office and they'd leave who they are at the door, and they would go in and behave a certain way. This is how we do things around here. And then when they leave, they'd pick up who they are and go home. And we live this crazy life where we were only ourselves part of the time. And it's stifling, it's uninspiring, and it's just it's not good for your mental and physical health, right? And I think we're living in a time now where people have embraced their individuality, and they're willing to bring that to work, and they don't succeed despite it. They succeed because of it. And I think that it's that's the only thing we have to offer is our unique value. Right, that's what we can offer the world, and we just need permission, or I say the mandate, to actually do that.
Being unique at a job could happen maybe in a few places, because this is how I'm imagining things. I was employed, I was a manager for 8 years and a half. It took me 8 years to move away. I took the decision kind of fast. I didn't like it at all. And I was not unique in any way there. So hearing you say that you liked your job, which is amazing. I'm loving your mindset, because maybe you are the fourth person that I'm talking to that actually says that they like their job. You had this uniqueness part missing. Maybe you could not be fully who you were, and then you needed some place to shine at your true value. What would you say about this?
Well, I would say, my entire career, until the job that I actually left to do this, that was the case. I literally, conformity was the mantra in most of the organizations I worked for. I'll tell you a story. I was working at this organization. I won't mention its name, and I was going through my annual review with my boss. It's the job that I had before the one that I loved that I left, and my manager, he's, you're great, you got an exceeds, everything's great, and just one thing that you could improve. And I said, oh, tell me, what could I improve? And he said, you're a little too enthusiastic. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you're in a meeting and someone brings up an idea and you're all excited about it. And you talk about like how it could become something bigger. And he's like, we don't get excited about things here. It's too much for other people to process. And I swear this is what happened. And I was just like, okay. And so then, when your manager tells you something, and I was young in my career and maybe not as confident as I am now, I was thinking, okay, so what am I, like my next meeting, how do I dampen my enthusiasm. I thought, well, I could sit on my hands. You know, I'm Southern European. I'm a gesticulator. I would sit on my hands, and I said, I'll count to 10 before I say something, and then same day, and this is how old I am. The story's gonna really age me. I get in my car to drive home. I was living in Boston, but the company was outside of Boston. And I'm driving home, and this is the aging part. This was 4 cell phones, but they had car phones. And I had a car phone, and my friend Susan, who lived on the West Coast, she knew what my drive time was. So she'd often call. And so the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's my friend Susan. I'm like, Susan, I'm so happy to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. And she said to me, that's why I call you, because you're always so excited and happy. And it was the counter to what I had just heard a few hours earlier. And that was it in my head. It was one of those moments, you know, you look back at all your aha moments that create, you know, the big things that you do in life. And that was a moment I was like, you know what? It's maybe I don't belong there, and that's fine if that's what they want, but I shouldn't not be that, because that's what people in general appreciate in me. So anyway, so I think that's what if you just pay attention to the messages you get like that in life, they guide you to I think put more of who you are into what you do.
This story is both extremely funny, but also sad, because, you know, that's fortunate that you were present enough to keep your authenticity and to know, okay, this is a place that I don't belong anymore. Although I'm pretty sure that you had many reasons to be there since you enjoyed your work there. But yeah, I'm thinking how many of us, and I'm also referring to myself now, I had no idea who I was when I left that office. I had to rediscover myself completely. What do I like? What are the things that are important for me in life, in business, in my career, in my family life? And it's an amazing story for people to think about and to maybe get your thoughts in order and see if anything similar has happened to you in the past, because indeed conformity needs to be the number one thing in other people's company, because it's their job, it's their work. Thank you for sharing this, William. Would you say?
Yeah, well, you know, just continuing on that, just slightly, I think the being an entrepreneur forces you to be a lot more, to think a lot more about things, right? When you work inside a company, a lot of stuff gets done for you. A lot of stuff is, you just, you know, there's an inertia and things just kind of move. And so I think that you spend less time being self-reflective or really being, you know, getting opinions from others and whatnot. But when you're an entrepreneur, you need to be really inquisitive, and you need to be self-aware and open and listening to things. And I think that's one of the benefits when I moved from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur that I didn't even think about, is how much more it makes you think about, you know, who you are, what you do, how you do it, the value that you deliver, because it's almost prescribed when you're in an organization, but on your own, you kind of need to figure it all out. So there's a lot of great things that come from leaving the corporate world and becoming an entrepreneur.
You only got to be your best self and your best professional self, obviously. And could you maybe please share with us what is the best thing that you like about branding besides the uniqueness?
The thing that I like about it is it's almost a roadmap to being able to achieve your life purpose, because everything comes back to when you think about your brand and the different elements that make it up, right? Your values and your passions and your differentiators and your goals and your purpose and your, did I miss one? When you look at all those elements, you need to, like they help define who you are and how you go to market every single day. So you kind of have a roadmap, and you ask yourself, am I staying on brand? Am I staying off brand? And there's some guardrails there that help you kind of stay on track and help you achieve what you want to do in life. And I think, and maybe they even help you define it. If you had asked me before I started my personal branding company, was my life purpose to help people, contribute in a positive, unique way and be fulfilled from the work that they deliver, I don't know if I would have said that that was my life purpose. But when I left, and part of it's because I'm working in personal branding, but part of it's also because when you are running your own show, you almost feel that responsibility of making that contribution to the world and being yourself. So I think it gives you some guardrails and maybe a path to follow. You need to make decisions along the way, right? That path could go anywhere, but I think it's a little bit comforting to know once and you got to do the work to get the clarity on your brand. I think one of the things that's been the best for personal branding has been the internet and social. In fact, until 2003. So I started my business in 2001. From 2001 to 2003, there was zero business in personal branding. And maybe, now I look back and I say, how lucky was I to have 2 years to really hone my methodology and come up with my marketing and business plan and do all of that. It's not good when you're, looking to pay your bills, but it's really good for being able to have time to do that stuff. But then in 2003, LinkedIn launched. And all of a sudden, everyone realized, oh, you know what? I have to have this visible presence that's way beyond, writing it on a resume and mailing it into the 5 companies I might want to work for. And that's where people's, the mind started thinking, you know what? Maybe I do need to manage my career. So I think that the internet's been good for it. My big concern and maybe complaint, maybe that's a strong word, has been that a lot of people don't do the most important work in personal branding, which is figuring out what your brand is. Now that it's so easy to throw stuff online, their full-time job is just like, let's be visible, regardless of what you're being visible about, who you're being visible to, whether any of it has consistency. So I would say it's been incredible. It's been a boon for my business when, social media took off. And at the same time, it's some people are skipping the most important step. You got to figure out real you before you can communicate the virtual you.
I love this. William, thank you so much for mentioning this, because many people that I'm talking to, young people, and maybe not that young, that are into business, into their careers a lot, they think that branding is something to do only for young people, a complete misconception. And they also think that you need to have a business in order to be branded. Can you please tell us, since you are the father of it all, what is personal branding exactly and who is it for?
Yeah, it's pretty much for anyone in the world who has competition. And that maybe with the exception of the Queen of England, where she's the only person for that job, we all have competition. And whatever your job title is, whatever company you have, there are other people who do it. And by the way, if you don't have competition, it's a pretty hard place to be, because competition is there because there's demand for whatever that is. So if you have no competition, there's no demand for what you do. And so if you have competition and you're all exactly the same, then no one's going to pick you, right? But offering something that's unique and valuable and different is what's going to make people find you. I'll tell you, we were talking before we went live about when I was in Bucharest, and I had an amazing time, and I was delivering a keynote and talking about branding, and afterwards we had a dinner, and I was sitting at this table of some of the participants who were there, and they were just great and fascinating, and we had this amazing conversation, and I will tell you, I have never met a group of people who were so passionate about brand and branding ever, like in my entire career up to then. And I said, I'm just so shocked at how much this concept of branding means to you and how much you love it. And this one person said to me, before the wall came down, we didn't have a choice. When it came to soap, we had one thing called soap, and that was it. And after the wall came down, we got to make decisions about which soap we want for ourselves. And they saw this choice, the opportunity, which is, by the way, that's all the decisions we make are all part of our brand, right? But the ability to have a choice and to choose the thing that's right for you is great. And that's really what branding is about, right? It helps us make decisions among seemingly similar things. And so it was when, you know, I talk about these light bulb moments, right? You kind of capture them as you go through life. That was a major light bulb moment for me, is when you didn't have the opportunity to see variety and then you do, you can so much more embrace the power of branding. So my definition for a brand is it's your unique promise to value. Unique because it's only available from you. A promise because you commit to delivering it every single day and everything you do. And it has value to a specific audience, right? The value is not determined by you. It's determined by the people you seek to influence and impact. And so that's really what my definition of branding is. And that unique piece, it's the very first word in the definition, right? It's really about, and every person is unique. We know that. No two people have the same DNA. No two people have the same life experiences. And that's the value. And I'll say one last thing, because I know I'm going down a path here, but all of the technology that's entering the workforce is the single best thing that's happening to us. So there are a lot of people afraid of it, like right? Artificial intelligence now can fill out a tax form. So what do we need accountants for, right? And so a lot of people are afraid of this technology. This technology entering the workforce gives us more permission to be human, because the only thing that robots and virtual reality and data science and all of that stuff, the only thing that they can't do is build relationships, is think creatively, is deliver on strategy. And so our day has come to bring our true human, unique selves to work, thanks to all this technology. It's ironic that the technology is making business more human, but it is.
This is so inspirational, William, that I don't know where to start. I'm taking this down.
Well, that's okay. That's because I said too much stuff before I let you get a word in.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. This is beyond educational, and I am learning a ton from you. I loved it when you said that no human being is similar to anyone else. I began reading your amazing book, Ditch Dare Do. I love the metaphor with the snowflake. They may look alike, but you don't find any that are the same. And I also found in your book something that was funny, interesting at the same time. There are people that don't believe in personal branding. And someone said that it is for cattle. And then my mind thought, okay, if it's a business cattle, then it's definitely. But what do you think about these people that I think they don't understand yet what you are trying to do with branding? What is your take on this?
Yeah, you know, actually, I think I don't know why people don't get it, right? But some people don't, and that's fine. And I don't know the why behind it. And I also think that there's some comfort in conformity. And so I think for some people, if we say to them, you know, here, you got to figure out what your brand is, and you got to live your brand every day, and you need to be thinking about your life purpose and all this. For some people, that might just be something too challenging, or, you know, there's just some kind of wall up for them. And they're not the people, frankly, that I spend my time trying to convince. I spend my time with people who really, you know, they're committed to bringing their full, authentic selves to the world every day. And there are enough of those people, right? I also think it's good to have, like everything in life, it is good to have people who don't agree with you. If everyone agrees with you, your message is kind of wishy-washy, right? It's beige. You know, no one gets all upset about beige. No one gets all excited about beige. It's just average, right? But when something does have a little bit of controversy, or there are differing opinions, it's because it does have some kind of meaning and some kind of power. So I'm okay with contrarians. They really help get the message out. And when you have a contrarian, it's so much easier to make your point and to share your point of view, knowing, by the way, that not everyone's going to agree with it. One of the biggest things I learned in branding, and you know, I spent most of my career in corporate branding before I jumped off to do personal branding. And one of the things that I learned is that strong brands often repel as many people as they attract, right? It's if you try to please everyone, you're probably not going to upset anybody, but you're not going to excite anybody either. So you need to be willing to take a stand and think of the strongest brands in the world. Even I don't know if Oprah is Oprah Winfrey known in your part of the world? Do you know?
She is.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell everyone this. I'm one of the world's biggest fans of Oprah. I just love it. She's all about empathy and you know when all these other talk show hosts were exploiting their guests, she's hugging hers and being really thoughtful. And what I learned is that there are people who hate Oprah, right? If you Google "I hate Oprah," a whole bunch of stuff comes up. So you know, she's not super controversial. She's incredibly warm and empathic and whatnot, yet there's a whole community of people who don't like her. So we have to be comfortable with the fact, if we are going to be true to our brands, that not everyone is going to agree with us. And that's totally okay.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for mentioning this. And indeed, getting into branding, as I have tested on myself and with several other entrepreneurs, it does take a lot of food for thought, a lot of mental activity. And, you know, some people do say that thinking is painful. But I would actually say that it's a lot of fear involved. And that's why I myself have specialized in fear when taking decisions. And I wanted to ask you, William, what would you say your journey around fear was? How has fear transformed through the years?
Yeah, well, I got to say, I wish you were around when I started my company, because there's a lot of fear. Yeah, by the way, having someone who can help you deal with fear, and fear can be a good thing, right? And you can use it in a positive way. And so being able to work with someone like yourself or your disciples who are doing what you do, to be able to get past that fear and use it in a positive way, I think is really helpful. For me, I will tell you, there were so many areas where I had fear. First of all, I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My parents worked for companies. So it was kind of I didn't, everyone says an entrepreneur often has entrepreneurs as parents because, they've seen how it works and they grew up with that. And so being an entrepreneur for me was, and I was at a point in my career where I was pretty good at what I did and I knew how to do it. And then you jump off of that and you're like, okay, so I'm starting a business on a topic nobody knows anything about. And I don't even really, get it 100% yet. And I have to find clients now. Before, I used to just get a paycheck deposited in my bank every month. And I mean, so there's pretty much every single aspect of being an entrepreneur. There wasn't one thing that didn't create some amount of fear, right? I mean, not paralyzing fear, obviously, because I was able to move forward. But all of those, I think for me, if I had to categorize them, they were all around the unknown. How do I get clients? Never had to do that before. How do I tell the world what I do? How do I make this transition? How do I make sure I get out of bed every day at a reasonable time in the morning and work? I used to have an alarm and I used to have to arrive at an office. And I mean, all these crazy things that you think about. And so I would say that fear was ever present, and it's still there because you know what? We need to constantly innovate and evolve. And I'm doing some new stuff now. I told you about this idea of shining online. How do you deliver powerful presentations and keep people engaged in your 19-inch screen and not saying, oh, I'm going to listen to this guy, but I'm going to multitask right now, right? Because I think I can multitask. I think if you're not having some amount of fear, you're probably not pushing yourself. Right? Because fear happens when you get outside your comfort zone. So you have to push yourself outside, right? Networking for a lot of people, and that's a big part of having your own business, creates all kinds of, what am I going to talk to these people about? I have to meet all these new people and it's an awkward environment. So yeah, fear, I think what you're doing in helping people manage and get past fear is absolutely essential, especially to people who are solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or even working in some kind of hybrid world where they're working for an organization and maybe they have a side hustle or their own entrepreneurial venture.
Thank you so much for mentioning this. Indeed, fear, as you say, it's with us, it's omnipresent. This is how our mind is built, so might as well use it to our advantage. I teach people to ask themselves questions. Whenever we bring a fear into our awareness, just by mentioning it, it kind of disappears. 90% it goes away, and then you're going to let your rational mind kick in and you will see solutions. Sometimes even 10 solutions to a problem that you could have thought, okay, I'm not going through this. But when you get to be fully conscious of it, it is such a great solution instead. And I want to ask you, William, what would you say that inspires you most, more than anything else?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'll tell you what inspires me most, and it's what's been missing, lacking over the COVID era, and that is talking to people who are passionate about building their brands. And before COVID, every single week I was on a plane going wherever, doing my mostly keynote speaking, which is most of my work. And I would get to talk to people, or we do workshops, right? And then you get to really see what's inside people's heads, and you see the wheels turning. And every single person in the world has a different story to tell. And so it really, and by the way, sometimes, and now you do this on a screen, I have no idea what people are doing with it. I have no idea if they get it. I'll tell one of my, my big jokes. I know it gets a big laugh, and I'll tell it to a screen. Silence, right? You don't even know, did you keep people engaged? So I think it's knowing that people have done something or are going to do something that's going to make their lives happier, better, more successful, whatever it is. I'll tell you a story. I was in the lounge, the British Airways lounge at Heathrow in London. This is maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago now. And this person came running up to me, and she didn't remember my name, but she's like, I saw you at wherever, blah, blah, blah. And I remember the story you told about the woman whose dog ate the heels off her shoe. And I mean, it's crazy, right? And I, you tell these stories, and she said, it really, and the story goes on and on. She said, and I took the message of that story and I brought it to work with me. And I want you to know that since then, everything in the way I have the same job that I've had, and everything about my job has changed because I've just taken that idea. So if I get one of those, like every 10 years, I'm totally like filled with inspiration. Because you know what? If I can, just impact one person, just a thimbleful of impact, then that's what inspires me to do the next thing.
This is so beautiful. And indeed, human live interaction, I miss it so much.
Oh, it's awful, right? You don't know how. So I used to complain, by the way, when you're a public speaker, talk to anyone who's public speaking is their full-time job, they will tell you they hate travel. And by the way, I love airports. I love airport lounges. I love hotels, but getting to the airport and then to the venue and then all of that stuff is ugly. I never realized how much I loved the stuff that travel allows me to do until it was gone. Right. And so, again, and not that I've enjoyed the last 2 years and it's been miserable for a lot of people in the world, and I would never wish it. However, having that taken away makes you learn so many things about yourself. And that's where I've learned that this it's really the real human interaction and connection is what motivates me and keeps me going. And it's what I'm passionate about. I am fascinated by every person. How did they get to where they are? Why do they do what they do? And so yeah, so it kind of makes sense that I work in personal branding, but but I didn't know that, right? So sometimes even the biggest challenges in life give you a gift. And you know, my gift is that awareness of what really makes me tick.
This is beautiful, awareness, the gift of awareness. Even when things may be challenging, changing outside in a way that we cannot control, you get to find some lessons and then move on stronger and more powerful and more enthusiastic. I'm loving your very enthusiastic nature, William.
Well, thank you. My boss at that old company didn't, so I appreciate that.
Oh my goodness, that's a great story that I'm going to keep with me for a very long time. Before we go, William, can you please tell us how would you advise that a young person deals with branding so that they not get overwhelmed? Because you may have seen this everywhere. People are on social media nowadays in a very big number. We put things out there, but then the things that we put out there come back to get us in a way, and we feel completely overwhelmed. What would you say that someone that's young should focus on first when it comes to their branding?
Yeah, well, so first, of course, and this is, again, the missing step, you need to be crystal clear. Who are you? What makes you stand out? And who are the people you're looking to influence? The third piece, by the way, is really key. There are a lot of people who put stuff out there and they're not really targeted at their community. So who is that audience, and how can you describe them with demographics and psychographics? Where do you reach them, right? Maybe your people are all on LinkedIn, but you're posting all this stuff to Instagram that has no value for you. So if you get really clear about your audience, it's great. And then never publish anything where the answer to this question is not yes. And the question is, will this be valuable to my target audience? It needs to not be about you at all. It needs to allow you to express your point of view and deliver it in a way that's authentic to you, but it's really about everyone else. Personal branding, and this is the thing, personal branding sounds really me. It's the opposite. Your brand is held in the hearts and minds of those who know you. So you need to be, it's all about how you deliver value to others. That is your value, is in delivering value to others. So if you stay on that focus, then you'll start to build a brand with that community, and you will it's not about being, you know, in social media 10 times a day. It's about being in social media at a cadence that makes sense, and each time you're there, what you're delivering is powerful and valuable and memorable, right? And that's how you stay top of mind.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for saying this. You're doing this mastermind right now. I'm taking notes, learning so much from you. William, I'm sure that the people listening to us and watching us are more than ecstatic to get in touch with you today. How can they get in touch with your books, with your work, with your website? Please tell us.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is, one thing, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I that's my primary social media, so you can do that. And williamarruda.com has, you know, links and information about all kinds of stuff and all kinds of free stuff and fun stuff and anything people might want to know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, William. This has been more than inspirational. I'm finding this amazing value that you are putting out there to be life-changing in so many ways, because business, obviously, if it's well coordinated, our lives will be well coordinated as well. You can have great business without great personal life. So thank you for all that you're doing. Once again, I'm such a huge fan. This has been a dream of mine. You are making me so happy right now. Such a privilege, such an honor. William, thank you for joining us today.
Roxana, you are too kind, and I appreciate your enthusiasm. And you're incredibly good at interviewing, by the way. You have a really kind and thoughtful way, and you're a great listener. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you so much.